Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. Today on episode 151, we are talking about 5 things to expect when you go home after you have a baby. Let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hilary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, Pregnancy and Parenting Untangled. There's no right answer for every family, but on this show, we hope to give you some ideas to make life simpler at your house. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Taking this entirely from my own experience today. I've had 3 babies. My first one, I had a ginormous tear in the lady parts. And so I'm just telling you what good information I can give you for what to expect when you go home and you have the baby. Because I just thought I would go home and life would pretty much be the same as it was before. I would just have a baby with me. Like, you know, when you get a new handbag, it's not the same as that. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. All right, first thing to expect when you go home. That night 3, the first night usually after you go home, unless you've had a C-section, if you go home after 48 hours, that next night after you go home is usually just horrible. The baby is learning to poop. They're learning to have gas bubbles, and that might be not as comfortable as they were hoping. They are learning that they have to eat in order to live. They are learning that the temperature might not always be perfect for them. You have to remember that this baby lived in a womb that was absolutely perfect. And so when they go home and life hits them in the face, they are unhappy. And so my best advice is just to expect that first night home is not going to be a winner, and that hopefully you are 100% surprised. But for me, I think on every single baby, it has been absolutely miserable. And when I had my second and third, I used to be able to go to the Kaiser newborn clinic because that's how Kaiser did it. And you would have these amazing newborn nurses who did nothing but newborns. And they were just like, oh yeah, that's the night 3 slump. It's going to get better from here. And I was like, because I had been a labor nurse. By the time I had my second, I had been a labor nurse for like 3 or 4 years. I was like, I have literally never heard this. I mean, I didn't work postpartum. I didn't work with newborns all that much. But there you go. Don't let anybody never tell you that one, because night 3 can be spicy. Okay, tip number 2, and this is for after you've already had babies. Your other kids are insane. Right? You've been gone. They have the new baby. Usually schedules are all out of whack. Food is all out of whack. I just remember thinking I was maybe going to have to go to a hotel or lose it with one of them. And that is so normal. Some of the best advice I got from a friend when I had my second baby is you are going to feel like you want to scream at your oldest constantly, right? Because the baby, you don't really feel the urge to yell at them all that much. Because when you've already had a newborn, a 3-year-old is a little bit more annoying. So that's some of the best advice I ever got, because it's so easy to just be like, sit down, be quiet. Why are you yelling like that? Stop running around the house, right? So it's super normal for those other kids to be driving you crazy. And so make a game plan with your partner, with your parents, with anyone that can help about how they are going to give you and your postpartum, sleep-deprived, hormone-crazy brain some breaks from those kids. Obviously, you still need to have time with those kids. I think I've said it in a podcast episode before. When I had my third, the pediatrician was more interested about my second and how I was going to deal with him. And they just really emphasized to me about how important it was to make sure that he still had special time with me. And I think that is super important. And it can cool down the craziness, but they may drive you crazy. I mean, it's pretty likely. So just something to be aware of. I just saw somebody on TikTok talking about their other kids when they brought the baby home. And I was like, yes, that's so normal. I swear the comment I make on TikTok most frequently is so normal. Maybe I'm sorry, so normal. Okay, number 3. And I think I learned this most on my first with that big tear. I only had a 2nd degree tear with my other 2. I had a 4th degree on my first, is that chairs are going to hurt more than you think they will. I think I almost just plopped down on our very bad couch. We did not have a good couch at the time. It was from Goodwill, and I wanted to die. Chairs were, that was very difficult for me because you're going to get in your car and it's pretty cushy and you kind of sit down ginger anyway, but then you get home and you might just go plop into a chair. That is a big mistake. Something you can use to help is a hemorrhoid pillow or a tailbone pillow. See if any of those help, but usually what helped me the most was to try and do a Kegel before I sat down so that things didn't spread apart, and just be gentle. Again, it's not like coming home with a new handbag. You have a new baby and you're downtown is just a lot to deal with. Speaking of a lot to deal with, number 4 is that bathroom time seems extra complicated. So you're going to be in the hospital. I have a YouTube video on how you're going to take care of your bottom, but in the hospital, it's kind of easy because they make sure that you're restocked. You don't have other kids around you. The hospital bathrooms tend to have shelves in appropriate spots. But when you go home, you might have a postpartum kit kind of ready, but it might not have all the stuff, and you might run out of stuff and you forget to restock it, all those different kinds of things. Your bottom time just tends to be a little bit more complicated, and you need to give yourself the grace to take that time in the restroom to take care of your bottom in the way that it needs to be taken care of. So even if the baby is crying, let the baby cry. Make sure that you get those tucks on. Make sure that you're changing your pad, all those different kinds of things. Take care of yourself and your bottom so that it can heal, because that's going to be one of your biggest priorities at that point in time. So just be aware that the bottom situation can seem like a lot in the restroom. A lot of people say to prepare a postpartum basket, and I really love that idea. So think about what you want. If I had a postpartum basket, I would make sure that it could sit on the back of my toilet, and I might have one in every bathroom that I use in the house. I would have good size pads in it, tucks, dermoplast, and usually those are enough. Although my sister-in-law told me that I could keep my tucks in the fridge, and that was a game changer. So early on, sometimes you want those padsicles, which is a menstrual pad soaked in witch hazel, and a few other things that will just help it feel good downtown. So the bathroom routine is going to get better, but try and be prepared for it as much as you can and give yourself that grace to take care of your bottom. All right, number 5 is that breastfeeding a lot of times just falls apart. Something in the hospital is magical. Those lactation consultants come in. They're magical about getting babies latched on. By the way, I've latched babies on in the hospital and cannot latch my own. It is so much easier to latch a baby on from outside a human's body than it is to do it from up above with your own 2 hands and your own baby. So just everyone thinks it's kind of magical what the lactation consultants do, but in reality, it's just a lot easier than it is if you're the mom. So it is very normal to just feel like breastfeeding is falling apart. I would encourage you before you leave the hospital to get an appointment with a lactation consultant. Of course, you could cancel it if you need to, but by having one, usually insurances pay for it, and you can make sure that you're establishing breastfeeding well, and you can get some encouragement that you're doing things right, and your milk's going to start coming in. Baby's going to be much happier. Just be prepared for breastfeeding to be more difficult than you had planned. And honestly, on each baby, because I've even had friends who've had multiple babies text me and they're like, I don't know what's going on. My milk's not coming in. And things go on with every different delivery. One of my friends, she had a hemorrhage. So yes, normally if you lose a lot of blood, it's going to take a little bit longer for your milk to come in. And so, on every baby, it just takes a while to get into that breastfeeding routine. So those are my best 5 tips. I hope you guys don't take this as a downer. I just wish I had an idea more of what to expect when I came home with my baby. And I get the sense on social media that other people could use these kind of tips as well. Just an idea of what things are going to be like when you go home, because it's not going to be like just bringing home a new handbag. So if you guys have other tips, come tell me on Instagram, or you can tell me in the comments on the blog post at pullingcurls.com. I would love to know them, and I would love to share them with my followers. Okay, guys, stay tuned. Next week, we are talking about buying a mattress for your kids. This is more of just things to think about when you're buying things, especially long-term things like a mattress for your kids. It's stuff I never thought about. So basically, this is a therapy session for me, but I think it's helpful and important information. I would recommend it for all parents and people who are having babies. And then the week after that, we're going to talk about the length of your labor. Great episodes. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. The Pulling Curls podcast grows when you share us on social media or leave a review. If you do, please tag us so that we can share and send you a virtual hug, which frankly is my favorite kind of hugging. Until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.